Welcome to the Dan Sports Tips Major League Baseball show. Today is the 3rd of April. It is the first day of the new, well, it's the second day of the new season. There were 3 games last night. We are back for a new season. We will be here almost every day throughout the season. Only one show a day this year. We're going to be combining the sports bets and the DraftKings Daily Fantasy into one show, as I no longer have to keep them separate, as I am no longer affiliated with DraftKings. Right, I'm going to start with the sports bets. That's going to be the format every day. Looking at the bets today, I'm going to go with a small accumulator. We're going to take the Colorado Rockies to beat the Milwaukee Brewers. Philadelphia and Cincinnati to go over 8.5 total runs. Detroit and the Chicago White Sox to go under 7.5 total runs. And the Los Angeles Dodgers on the run line, -1.5 to beat the San Diego Padres. On opening day, I usually look for pitching mismatches, I should say. Not all teams do boast a true number one starting pitcher, and as such you can find games where you can take advantage. I do believe that's the case in Milwaukee. I trust Jon Gray of Colorado a lot more than Junior Guerra of Milwaukee. He's a perfect example of one of my basic rules in sports. If you fool me once, like when Guerra broke into the majors at 31 and looked viable as a starter last year, you have to prove it to me again by doing it for a second season before I become a believer. Gray is much younger, as such he's open to more improvement as he grows into the role of the starting pitcher in the big leagues. I do think overs is an option as well in that game, which I will cover later on, just in case I'm wrong about Gray and he doesn't pan out as I'm expecting today. Cincinnati's Great American Ballpark is one of the best parks for hitters that's available to us today, behind really only Fenway in Boston, as both Scott Feldman and Jeremy Hellickson are not pitchers I particularly like to trust. I am expecting some runs in that game. The weather map doesn't show good news for Chicago today. It may intervene in the game. If it doesn't, it's not likely to be great hitting conditions there. We've got 2 top quality pitchers in Jose Quintana and Justin Verlander facing off, and the basic rule of Quintana's starts in recent years has been that he simply doesn't allow many runs when he's on the hill, but the White Sox also don't score a lot of runs for him, and this White Sox team is not a good one this year. And finally, for the ACCA, the Dodgers send the best pitcher alive to the hill today in Clayton Kershaw against Yuli Shakeen of the San Diego Padres. That is about as big a mismatch on the starting pitching as is possible to find in all of baseball. The Dodgers lineup also boasts players such as Rookie of the Year Corey Seager, and while San Diego continue to rebuild, it is a short price, certainly too short for me to want to be putting any decent amount of money on as a single at the price, but it's worth an inclusion in the accumulator. The 2 singles we'll take today is going to be the over 8.5 total runs for the reasons mentioned in Colorado and Milwaukee, and I'm going to take Texas on the run line -1.5 to beat the defeated World Series team, the Cleveland Indians, as well. I am happy to take Cleveland on today, off of the World Series hangover that's to be expected. Corey Kluber will pitch for them. He's logged a lot of extra innings on his arms in that postseason. Because of the deep run they had, he has had a shorter off-season. Historically, he started seasons slowly as well and gets better throughout the year. Yu Darvish, when he's healthy, will pitch for Texas, is legit. I'm going to look for the Rangers to start this season fast. Those are the bets we're going to be taking today, with all of them with Bet365. Moving on to DraftKings today, I am going to change the format up slightly differently to last year. Starting pitchers that I'm willing to use today are Clayton Kershaw of the Los Angeles Dodgers for $12,800, Noah Syndergaard of the New York Mets for $11,600, and Jon Gray of the Colorado Rockies for $7,800. I would have included Justin Verlander in this list as well, but the weather does look a bit ropey in Chicago today, and the last thing we need is a lengthy rain delay after an inning or something to spoil it for us at that price. Kershaw and Syndergaard are among the premier flamethrowers in the game. They do strike a lot of batters out, and both of them call decent yards in terms of pitching for their home ballparks today. Certainly Kershaw will face a below par lineup. Jon Gray is the one I like lurking at lower prices. Milwaukee's a good park for hitters, sure, particularly lefties, but Gray did show outstanding numbers away from Coors Field at times last season. I will likely be using him and look for him to continue his strikeout rate of over 1 per inning and hopefully keep the Brew Crew at bay today. Looking at stacks we can use today, I've got Mookie Betts for $5,200, Jackie Bradley Jr. for $4,200, and Andrew Benintendi at $3,700, all in the outfield for the Boston Red Sox. Fenway is the best hitters park we have available to us today. While Gerrit Cole has shown in the past that he can be an outstanding starting pitcher, he did miss a large portion of last season with elbow and shoulder issues. He was shut down early. It's been a long time since he took the hill in a major league game, and I'm willing to take a chance that there'll be some rust there and take some Red Sox against him today. The Colorado Rockies, I will take outfielder Carlos Gonzalez for $4,800. Charlie Blackmon in the outfield for $5,000. Shortstop Trevor Story for 4,600, and third baseman Nolan Arenado for 5,000. I'm going to take the Rocks on the road. I need to see another year from Junior Guerra before I believe Miller Park plays well for all hitters, particularly lefties, and the Rockies' top of the order does offer all-round threats that can do some damage here. Story in particular started last year very fast and had a strong spring again this year. The Philadelphia Phillies is the other stack I'll use today. I will take Audible Herrera, who qualifies at second or the outfield. We will be using him in the outfield for this stack for 4,200. Second baseman Cesar Hernandez for 3,800, and outfielder Michael Saunders for 3,800. The park in Cincinnati does play very well for left-handed hitters in particular. Certainly for the long ball. Scott Feldman is far below your standard opening day starter for the Reds today, and as such is one of the better options to look at stacking against today. I think Hernandez as well, all the reports are that he's been working and should see an uptick in his stolen base numbers this year as well. Herrera, as we know, can swipe a bag too. Looking at my building blocks today, my foundation players, first baseman Joey Votto of the Cincinnati Reds for 4,700. Second baseman D. Gordon of Miami for 4,200. Manny Machado qualifies at third and short for Baltimore for 5,100. Trey Turner at short or the outfield for 4,900 for the Washington Nationals. And outfielder Starling Marte of Pittsburgh for 4,900. Votto is in a great yard at home in Cincy. His left-handed power plays well there. He's also been consistent. Age is going to get him in the end, but I will look for him to be solid again this year and jump off if he starts as cool as he did last year. Gordon's got an awful matchup facing Thor today, but his upside on the bases does merit inclusion at what looks a difficult position, certainly at the top end of the market. Manny Machado is what he is, an MVP candidate that can hit the ball out the yard, facing Marco Estrada, who remains a fly ball pitcher who's had issues in the not so distant past with the home run. Trey Turner looked a stud when he hit the majors last year, and I will certainly hope that continues against Edinson Volquez of Miami today, who hasn't always been the most consistent pitcher on the hill. And Starling Marte simply is the best hitter on Pittsburgh these days. Fenway is where he is today. It's a good hitter's yard. And let's be honest, as good as Porcello was last year, some regression to the mean is to be expected this year. And my value play today, catcher Sandy Leone of Boston for 2,900, Mitch Moreland on the Red Sox for 3,300 at first. Adam Frazier of Pittsburgh qualifies at second or in the outfield. He's 3,200. Miguel Sano of Minnesota qualifies at third and in the outfield for 4,000. Raul Mondesi of Kansas City is the shortstop for 2,400. And Scott Schebler, the outfielder for Cincinnati, at 3,600. All of Leone, Moreland, Frazier and Schebler have the platoon in a yard that does play well for power from their side of the plate. Sano has shown power in the past as well. Target Field is one of the more under the radar parks that is okay for right-handed batters, and Danny Duffy is another pitcher that has to prove to me this year that last year was no fluke and he is not a flash in the pan as a starting pitcher. And finally, Raul Mondesi comes in super cheap. Obviously the yard applies the same as Sano. However, while he hasn't been a power hitter in his short stint in the majors so far, he does show an ability to get on base and swipe a bag, and he's had a very solid spring. Those are the bets for today. That's the DraftKings advice. Best of luck if you're having to play either way today, and I will be back regularly, as I say, throughout the season. Play ball.